This is my 1998 Jeep Grand Cherokee with the 5.2-liter V8, and today I'll show you how to replace the spark plugs, spark plug wires, and the distributor cap and rotor. The procedure will be essentially the same for many vehicles of this era, but check your service manual for any differences. My service manual says to replace the spark plugs and inspect or replace the wires, cap, and rotor every 30,000 miles or every 2 years, whichever comes first. I bought this Jeep 42,000 miles and 12 years ago, and have never touched the cap and rotor, so it will be interesting to see if they have any obvious issues. I'm also going to be doing a compression test today for an upcoming video, so stay tuned for that coming very soon. Anyway, the most difficult part of this procedure is reaching the cap and rotor behind the engine, especially on a lifted vehicle, but it's really not that bad, so let's get to it. Here are the tools that I used for this job. Socket wrench, torque wrench, a couple socket extensions, universal socket joint, 5/8 magnetic spark plug socket, 3/4 inch socket, electric screwdriver, Phillips No. 2 bit, and a 1/4 inch flathead bit. For this job I also needed masking tape, a permanent marker, a paint marker, rubber gloves, a few zip ties, a pair of dikes, spark plug gap gauge, dielectric grease, a few cotton swabs, an air compressor, a new set of spark plugs, new spark plug wires, and a new cap and rotor set. There are links in the description for everything I used. You should usually do this job with a cold engine, but I warmed it up this time so I can do that compression test that I mentioned earlier. This Jeep doesn't have the factory airbox anymore, but I recommend removing anything that's in the way of your spark plugs and wires. I'm marking the spark plug wires with their corresponding cylinder numbers before I pull them out, because they're all different lengths and I'll need to match them with the new wires later. Remove the wires by pulling from the rubber boot. They'll usually come off easier if you give a little twist to break the connection first. If there's any dirt or debris around the spark plug openings, you should use an air compressor to clean up the area before removing the spark plugs. Now we'll do the same thing on the other side. I needed a second extension and a universal socket joint to reach the last two spark plugs. Now we can remove the spark plug wires. The cap is held on with two Phillips screws. This is a really tight space that's hard to reach and even harder to see what you're doing, but the good news is the screws are designed not to fall out when you loosen them. I will say the electric screwdriver made this part a lot easier. The only other good option would be to use a stubby manual screwdriver. There was barely enough room to pull the cap out, but I eventually found a way once I got to a better vantage point.
Got it.
Under the cap, you'll find the rotor. Just pull it straight up, and if it feels stuck, pull harder. Remember which way this thing was pointed when you pull it out, because the new one has to go in the same way. By the way, this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I've replaced number 3. It's a different brand. It's a NGK instead of a Champion. And I think all the rest are Champions. Now let's take a closer look at the cap and rotor. I can see that it's been used, but I'm not really seeing any problems with it. The rotor should also be free of defects like cracks, corrosion, or physical damage, and this one still looks pretty good. The service manual says to check the cap for cracks, carbon tracks, broken towers, and a worn or damaged rotor button, but this one is in surprisingly good shape. The new cap is marked with the number 1, indicating this tower is for cylinder 1, but I'm going to use a white paint marker to mark all 8 of them, which should make installing the new spark plug wires a lot easier. The terminal in the center goes to the ignition coil, which is on the front of the engine toward the passenger side. This is the front. The rotor sits on top of the shaft, but it's keyed, which means it's designed to only fit one way. Make sure the rotor is pushed down all the way, otherwise the cap won't fit over it. Double check that the cap is facing the right way and use the screws to secure it in place. I laid out all the old wires so I could match their lengths with the new ones, but then I noticed something I wasn't expecting. Normally, you'd need to take the new wires and match them to the length of the old wires to figure out which cylinder they go to, but these NGK ones that I got, they're already numbered. That is really convenient, so I didn't have to do the tape with the numbers, but if you got cheap wires like these ones were, then you would have to number them and figure out the lengths for all of them. Before installing the new spark plugs, it's not a bad idea to check the gap. I know this isn't the best gauge, but it'll get you there. Most of these were spot on. I had a couple that went up to about 4.0, so I bent the electrode back and then got them in the right spot. The torque spec for the spark plugs is 25 to 30 foot-pounds. I'm going to do 30 foot-pounds because I'm not using anti-seize on the threads. I went with 30 foot-pounds, but had to remove the plugs again a few days later, and they all seemed really tight, so I recommend going with 25 foot-pounds. The spark plug for cylinder 3 got tight right away because it was used. I installed it a couple 100 miles ago when I had misfires, and I didn't buy a new one to replace it because it's still so new. So the crush washer on it was already crushed, and that's why it got tight right away. The new wires came with some dielectric grease, so I'll apply some to the inside of the rubber boots, which will help keep water and debris from getting inside, but don't put it directly on the electrical connections. When installing the new wires, make sure to route them so that they aren't laying directly on the engine, and definitely be sure to connect each one to the correct terminal and the correct spark plug. I tried to clean up the appearance with some zip ties, but you should be careful not to tighten them too much because the wires can interfere with each other if there's not enough space between them, which could potentially cause misfires. I'd like it if the wires for 6 and 8 weren't touching the valve cover, but they're just too short. There's no other way to run them. Reinstall any components you removed earlier, then we're ready to start the engine and make sure that we didn't screw anything up. Speaking from personal experience, it's a good idea to keep the old wires for backups. And since the new wires didn't come with any looms, I'm going to take some of these and stick them onto the wires that are in contact with the valve cover. If you end up buying wire loom, make sure you get some that's heat resistant because this stuff that I use on my auxiliary wiring, it just crumbles. It's probably about 5 years old, but it's worthless now. The results from the compression test I did turned out to be a little concerning, but I want your opinions, so watch for that video coming very soon. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe for more of the best DIY videos on the internet. And until next time, just keep throwing money at it.